the best tasting radio show in all of South Louisiana. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou. Here we talk about all the food happenings around Acadiana. If you like food, you might want to tune in and learn some more about food. I messed that all up. I am recovering from my work Christmas party last night. I am apologizing right now. We are smack dab in the middle of holiday Christmas party season, and some of you out there may be feeling like I am right now. Joining us tonight as guest co-host is cheese guru and beer aficionado, Mr. Alan Lee with Whole Foods. We're going to be talking about how holiday pairings with wine and cheese and how to bring your holiday party to the next level. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Alan.
Hey, good to be here.
All right. So as I mentioned, a holiday party last night for work. A lot of fun, a lot of Fireball. Not usually a drinker of Fireball, but being as we ran out of the good whiskey rather early, I switched to Fireball. Hey, and it does not taste bad with Coke. It's pretty good.
Coke will make anything taste
good. This is also true. It was a Coke with a nice cinnamony aftertaste.
That Fireball.
Yeah.
Sweet Lord.
At one point in the party, and some of what transpired, I can't talk about on air, but at one point, there was a glass of Fireball that was going around, and all of the coworkers were taking shots from that communal. You know, it was a real bonding moment for the doctor's office that I work with. Yeah. Team building, bonding exercises. And my Secret Santa loved me tremendously because she got me the Anthony Bourdain news cookbook Appetites. I become obsessed with cookbooks during the holiday season, and I think in some upcoming shows I'm gonna write out a list of cookbooks that I think you guys should check out. Have you looked at it yet? Have you the cookbook? Yeah.
No, the last cookbook that I made anything from was like a White Elephant Christmas gift like 4 years ago. But I still think about that coconut cream chicken soup that I made from it that one time.
How did that taste?
It was good.
It was good?
Yeah, I stand by it. No, I liked it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful, it's almost a coffee table book because it has really beautiful artistic pictures in it. It's a lot of like food on the floor. I think he was being, very Anthony Bourdain and like serious. Yeah.
Off the floor.
Right. I'm going to be talking about this in a future episode, but he goes on this hamburger rant, and we talk about hamburgers a lot on the show. I think the last time you came on the show, we were talking about cheese and hamburgers.
I was prepared to talk about hamburgers today as well. Yeah,
we may. Hey, who knows what direction the show will go in. We may talk about hamburgers. He was talking about his perfect hamburger, and I kind of disagree with some of the things that he was saying, but we'll talk about that on another episode of the show. I was asked to judge the latte art throwdown at Rev Coffee Roasters this past week. Have you been to a latte art throwdown before?
No, unfortunately, I missed this one and I missed last year's, but hopefully in the future we'll
Super
get
fun.
to it. Yeah, shout out to Carter. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Carter is a Whole Foods alum. I wasn't expecting. It was so fun, and I think part of what I loved the most was the amount of young kids that were there and so into it, and like their friends would come up, and it was a lot of the baristas from the different coffee establishments around town that were competing, and they'd go up and their friends would get so excited, and then the baristas were geeking out over the coffee foaming cup, like it was a special metal coffee cup. Yeah, it was, and I appreciate that. I appreciate people who are really passionate about what they're into, and these happened to be a bunch of kids that were really into coffee, and I didn't know how hard it was it was a free pour competition. Like they couldn't do stencils or anything. I was asking, so can you do a foam cat? And they were like, no, you kind of need something to kind of help draw it. So can't do free form, but a lot of free form swans that were beautiful. Somebody did a peace sign That was rather impressive. And it was fun. And apparently the smaller the cup, the harder it is. So you would get extra points for pouring it in, for free pouring into a smaller cup. So it was really cool. And I think Rev Coffee won first, second, and third place this year. Carter actually won third place. And it was his birthday too. So maybe that had something to do with the third place.
Well, they get a lot of people competing from like Baton Rouge and New Orleans too. So, I mean, a lot of different baristas come in to compete in that. Yeah,
they had a huge group from Baton Rouge that came. And then one of the judges with me was a barista from Magpie in Baton Rouge. And she was kind of helping us determine, because we were just going by looks, but she had more of the technical expertise to tell us why this was a good one and why this was not. But it was a lot of fun. And they happened to have the Rev Coffee Stout there. You guys have it at Whole Foods on tap, but you're out right now. Is that correct?
Right now, yeah. Since they released it in bottles on Grand Reserve Day, the supply has seemed to diminish somewhat. But as soon as it's available, we're going to have it back on tap in the bar.
Carter told me when I went that no place in town has it on tap right now. And it's so popular. People are obsessed with it. We were talking about you can't really drink a whole lot of it. You kind of only drink one because it's like drinking a coffee.
Well, I think a 12-ounce bottle actually has the same amount of caffeine as like a cold brew coffee that you would get.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I'm not a beer drinker, and I love that coffee. It's really good. Are you guys going to get it in the glass, or is it just going to be tap? Because I know right now the only place you can get it is at the brewery.
Right. Yeah. Right now it's brewery only distribution, which hopefully they'll start sending that out to retail in the next couple months. I don't know what their plans are for it, but they have a few different beers that they unveiled this year that we're hoping to get in the store.
That one's a good one, and I'm happy that it's taken off so well and has become so popular. And it's hard for places. I know my boyfriend's obsessed with it, and he kind of tracks any place that has it. And I know that you guys. And also, I want to mention, because I found this out because I asked, I have a growler from a different brewery, and you can bring any growler to Whole Foods and get it filled with any beer,
right.
Correct?
We don't have any type of restrictions on the growlers that we'll fill up at the bar for you. So, you know, of course, we have them in the store. They're $6. It's actually cheapest in town. What's up?
Yeah.
But if you have one already and you don't want to have like a million growlers at your house, bring one in. That's totally fine. We'll fill up anything.
Awesome. That's so good to know. Also want to give a shout out to, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, Kara Macaroons. She actually works at Rev Coffee. And if you listen to the show, you heard me talk a while back about this beautiful apple blossom pie muffin thing that they made there. And she made that. She does great things with confections, and she does macaroons, and they happen to be vegan and very tasty. Loved her stuff. You can find her on Instagram and Facebook. She's at the farmer's market, I believe, every Saturday too, but they sell them at Rev Coffee Roasters. Macaroons is kind of taken off in Lafayette a little bit, a little tiny bit. The Steep House has some. They do some there. They're doing like the ice cream macaroons, and hers were really good. I was very impressed with them.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact about macaroons.
Okay.
1-0.
1-0?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just so you know, you don't tell someone that they spelled it wrong.
Yes.
And then you look like a fool.
Right. I know. And when I was posting it, I had to make sure that I was spelling it correctly, because the French spelling and then
is 1-0.
Yeah, right? 1-0. And I feel like I always have to say it with a French accent, be like macaroon when I'm saying it too. So, yes.
They are delicious. There's not enough of them. I want to eat like 4 of them at a time.
I feel like I could eat a whole box. I went to Dallas a while back and went to a macaroon place there. See, I did it. Yeah. I did it. And I felt like I could have eaten the whole dozen that I bought. They were so pretty. Like, I got a few of each, so it was like a beautiful rainbow presentation of them. And they're really light, and if you can't have gluten, they're gluten free. And hers happen to be vegan too, and they make them with almond flour. So I guess in a way they could also be considered low carbish. I know some people on the low carb diet kind of snack on them, and they're really tiny, and they're good stuff.
Yeah, I've had them. They are delicious.
Okay, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we have more with Alan. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
From Boudin to the best burgers Acadiana has to offer, it's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou, and joining tonight is guest co-host. He is Grand Master of Cheese, Mr. Alan Lee with Whole Foods.
Cheese in the house.
Cheese in the house. Okay, we want to give a special shout out to Eastgate Barbecue Express. They posted this past week on Facebook that things have been a little rough for them since the flooding in the area. This is the Broussard Youngsville-ish location, and that they need a couple of good days to survive. So you guys go out and support them if you can. They are on Waiter, so if you can't get to them, you can order them through Waiter and check them out. Let's not lose all the good barbecue places that we have in town. Lafayette does not have a lot of good barbecue places, and they're pretty good, and they have really good sides too. So go and check them out if you have not. You have not checked them. You've never.
I have not.
Yeah.
I rarely get out of the Lafayette city limits, but I think for good barbecue, I could make that trek.
I think the last time I ate. Okay, so they have something called the trash grits. So let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah, let's talk about that a minute. I happen to do laundry at the laundromat that they're located right next to, which it works out perfectly. And so on the weekends,
you wash your shirt after you get barbecue sauce.
I actually wrote a column when I was writing for the Advertiser about food places next to laundromats for that particular reason. Like while I'm doing laundry, I would go eat at these different restaurants, and I put them on this list for that. But the trash grits, it's barbecue and cheese and a fried egg. So perfect hangover food. Let's just call it what it is. And, it's for the weekend. It's good. They make their own barbecue sauce there. Really good brisket sandwich that they do there. Good stuff. Good stuff. And for some reason, we talk about this all the time. We don't have that many great barbecue places in town. They're a good one. So people should go and check them out. Okay, you guys have an upcoming holiday class that you are going to be doing at Whole Foods. You want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah.
So it's going to be Monday, the 19th, so not this coming up, but the next. And we're just going to be having basically like a holiday class. It's going to be $30. It's going to be a lot of different holiday cheeses, special order stuff, like some really nice things that we've brought in. Plus, we're going to be sampling through all of our Top 10 Wine program, which is, the winter program for wines in the store. So you're going to have the opportunity to taste through all those as well. And like you and I were saying, if you're not so much of a wine person, come in. We have a lot of really great beers on tap and a lot of seasonal bottles as well that you can sub out for the wines if beer's more your thing.
All right. So if Ben's listening right now while he's delivering for Waiter, he probably just smiled really big and went, yes, because he's not the biggest wine drinker. So
which is fine.
Yeah.
We're going to be hosting it in the bar, in the store, Monday the 19th. It's going to be myself kind of doing the cheeses and whatnot, and then our level 2 somm wine expert, George, is going to be in there as well, co-hosting. So it's going to be a really good time to come in there, really just eat some cheese, have some wine, have some beer, some other accoutrement, if you will.
Right.
And maybe plan out some stuff for your next holiday party, or just going over to a friend's house, or maybe like that quiet dinner at home with the special someone.
Or maybe if you just really like cheese and wine, you just want to eat it every day.
It's just a good reason to get out of the house on a Monday night.
Right,
too.
Exactly. And tickets are $30.
Yes.
And you can purchase them online?
Yeah, they're going to be, they are available through Eventbrite. And you can also purchase them at the store or just at the bar. And if you want to come and you don't want to go online and make a reservation, just give us a call up at the store. We'll hold a spot for you. It's going to be great. And actually, let's see here. You can go to Whole Foods Market, amb.eventbrite.com. Limited tickets are available.
And this is just one example of something that you guys have been doing, and I just recently found out about it. wine club, beer club, and cheese club, and you kind of host one a week, monthly. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the normal rotation is 3 classes a month, and it's going to be the cheese club, the wine club, the beer club. Every month they'll have a different focus, maybe on like seasonal selections or one-offs, special things we get in, or we'll do like a focus on like regions. For December, it's a little busy, so we decided to combine them all and do one like super class.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes
mega
it even
ultra
better.
Class. Yes.
It's a mega ultra super wine, cheese, beer class. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But starting in January, it is usually on a Thursday. And like I said, cheese club, wine club, beer club. You come in, you just enjoy some stuff with your friends, maybe some people you met, the people that work there. It is a really good time.
Yeah.
Very informational.
It's so much fun. I went to the last wine one, and I discovered that I'm just a lover of Côte d'Aron wines. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. And it's a perfect date night, too. Like, I went with my boyfriend, and we actually have a third wheel friend. So this is what I was going to suggest. If you're a couple and one of you doesn't necessarily like beer or wine, whichever week that it is, you can still go and hang out at the bar and drink beer or wine from the bar and order a hamburger from the bar, because they have good hamburgers in there too, which our third wheel friend did at that particular event. So, I mean, that's another option too. Don't feel like you are go, and you can learn about different beers or wines or cheeses that you may find something that you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you get into cheese? Like, how did this passion for cheese start?
Well, I started working for Whole Foods in 2005, and it was at the Baton Rouge location right when they had built the store. Katrina happened that year, so I ended up moving out to Atlanta and working with a lot of people that had been in the industry for a long time. And it was really out there I started developing like a lot of knowledge and passion for it. And then from there, yeah, just a few different cities led me back here to Lafayette. So it's been about, this is my 12th year of doing it. And once you start learning about it, it is something that's very connected to like cultures and different parts of the world, and just like the history of it and the evolution of it really mirrors human civilization as well. So, I mean, it's a very interesting subject, even if you don't like cheese, just to go back and kind of read up on. But the more you learn about it, I mean, not only is it delicious, but it's a really great story too.
That just reminds me, I listened to this food podcast, and it's about the history of food. And the most recent episode was on butter and how butter started, and how it just reminded me of that, what you said with cheese. And then that's how I know that I'm also really into food, and that I could listen to a whole podcast about butter and be really fascinated by it.
Good butter is really amazing, especially if you've grown up with just like the sticks that come out of like the big pack from, you know,
it made me want to
say another supermarket.
Yeah, it made me want to check out these different types of butter that I buy from different animals, just like how cheese has different flavors and profiles depending on the animal that the milk came from. You know, same thing with butter. So it was really cool and interesting.
Yeah, and buy a butter dish.
A butter dish.
Yeah.
To keep it on the counter.
Yeah, just keep your butter.
Yeah,
out.
you
It's
should
fine.
always have just easy. That's my biggest pet peeve if I go to a restaurant and they bring out bread and butter, and you go in to get the butter and it's frozen or cold. Your butter always wants to be room temperature so it can be nice and spreadable and delicious. Yes. Okay.
Just keep it out for easy access.
There you go.
Easy dipping.
And we were talking about cheese specialization compared to sommeliers, that you are a certified cheese specialist. What is the
Correct.
exact title?
It's a certified cheese professional, so CCP designation, and that's through American Cheese Society, which is a program they've been doing now for about, I think like 5 years. So it's fairly new, but it's a really involved professional designation. You know, with being like a sommelier, there's a few different levels you can get into. Same thing with like a Cicerone. Whereas like with a CCP designation, you already have to prove that you have a certain amount of experience to even apply to get that education, that certification. It's 4,000 hours just to even apply. And then after that, you have a fair amount of like reading and studying and final exam at the conference that year. So it's pretty involved.
So if you blind taste tested a cheese, would you be able to tell what type of cheese it is and what animal the milk came from? Is that how? Because I know like the sommelier level is kind of like that, where they have to blind and you have to kind of figure out what region and everything.
Well, once you get to like Master Somm, I mean, that's pretty intense.
Right. And you were saying too that the cheese doesn't have that many levels. It's just one level.
No, but if I may just talk some smack about like level 1 Somm and level 1 Cicerone. I mean, it's an introductory kind of certification of people like maybe new to the industry or trying to get into it, because you don't necessarily have to be working with beer or wine to go through that training. However, like level 2 Somm, I mean, that's when it gets very, very involved, as well as like master. And I think there's another one above that now too.
There's like a grand. It's like a grand.
Yeah, it's like kind of horrifying to think about it.
Vin Leger,
how involved it
is the only one in Lafayette, and we talked about him on a previous show, and we basically just said he was like the grand master wizard of wine in Lafayette, because I don't know what the exact title is, but he's like the top level of the sommelier. But it's kind of cool, and it's interesting how, and it makes you an expert in cheese, and that you like it so much. Is there a cheese out there that you just absolutely cannot stand?
I mean,
we talked about Gouda and how I don't like Gouda, and you were kind of like, that may be one.
I don't like necessarily like enjoy it, like the really young ones, like the red wax Gouda.
Yes, I'm the same way, and I think that's why I don't like them.
It's very
because
utilitarian.
I haven't had
like there's a lot of good uses for it, but by itself, I mean, it's fairly just kind of like rich and buttery and bland, and all that is just kind of everything it has going on.
The fake smoky flavor that's added to the smoky Goudas too, and the red wax is also very off-putting to me.
I mean, but smoked Gouda is another one of those things where like you shred it up and you add it into something and it's delicious.
Yeah.
But by itself, maybe not so
much. Maybe
but
not.
I think like there's a lot of those washed rind cheeses out there, like the kind of the stinky stuff that if you don't get them during the right time of when they're like maturing, they can be really, really acidic and like bitter. And I would say like I know that's like very specific. It's not really a style, but that's something I think that's what I hate.
If you just could eat one cheese a day, like for the rest of your life, what would that cheese be?
That would be Jasper Hill's cloth bound cheddar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just all day.
Just straight up cheddar.
Yeah, it's available year round. It's Jasper Hill's is a really good cheesemaker out of Vermont, and they source all the milk from Cabot, which is like a big dairy up there as well, and they do milk and cheese and all that. So Jasper Hill's will basically make the cheese, age it. They do it in like a West County England style, so like the original cheddar, like 30-pound wheels, rubbed in bacon fat. Bandage gets thrown over them. They get dipped into scalding hot water to pull out the moisture. It's firm and crumbly, but also like savory and like rich and acidic and grassy. And it's amazing. It's like savory chicken broth at the finish.
I didn't realize how easy it was to make cheese at home, like just simple, not basic cheese. Do you have any experience with making cheese at home? Do you dabble?
I homebrewed beer for quite some time.
Yeah.
And made cheese a little bit, and just through my experiences, I've always liked to enjoy it more than I like making it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff out there, like those ricottas and queso fresco and mozzarella and just like basic cheese curds that are like super easy to do at the house, and they don't take a lot of time.
I guess it gets more complicated the more you delve into it, because I was thinking about you have to age it, like the aged cheese, the cheeses that have like the different molds and everything to it. What you make the cheese in can also alter the taste of it too. So I say it's easy to make at home, but then it can also get incredibly complicated.
Yeah, if you're doing anything aged, it's like you have to have special facilities and equipment and like bacterial cultures, and you have to want to, look at it every day and like flip it and brush it and salt it and brine it and never have any type of sanitation issues, because like one little microbe of bacteria that you don't want in there could just like spoil the whole thing.
All right, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we have more with Alan Lee. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPAL.
And now, we talk about food. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPAL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou, and joining us as guest co-host tonight has been Alan Lee. He is a cheese and beer specialist with Whole Foods, and we're talking about holiday party planning, and they have an upcoming event. What is the date of the event again?
It is Monday the 19th.
Tickets are $30, and it's all about planning your perfect cheese and wine winter pairings together for the event. So if somebody goes into the store and you happen to be working and they're like, help me make a cheese plate, you guys can do that for them.
Correct.
And then they can also set up for private consultations with you guys as well. They can make an appointment. Is that correct?
Yes. You can get in touch with us at the store. And myself and George, once again, our wine specialist, are willing to help you out with whatever you need. If you want to make an appointment to come in, we can help you kind of like personal shop for your party, figure out what your needs are, and just basically set you up for success for the holidays.
And how do you go about picking cheeses for people that come in for consultation? You said you ask them some questions. Is it more about what they like personally, or what you like and think that they should pick? How do you go about picking that for them?
What I like and what the customer likes definitely come into play, but there's a few other things you want to take into consideration. You know, first thing being, like, how many people is it going to be? Because that's going to affect your budget and
right.
How much cheese you're going to be able to get. So, you know, basically it's up to me at that point to know either like what's on sale or what we have that's going to fit into your budget. You're going to want to know your crowd. Like if it's a lot of people from work, maybe you don't know them that well, maybe you don't know their taste. So, you know, kind of moving forward with that, we'll pick something that's easily accessible, something that everybody likes.
Right.
And just kind of like move on from there.
Do you like cheese for beginners, the intermediate cheese plate, and then the advanced cheese lover?
Yeah, because I mean,
plate?
there's at least like a dozen cheeses that, you know, you could bring home that are surefire hit, like with everybody. You know, like the board's going to be done by the time the party's gone.
Yeah. Speaking of cheese plates and what you guys have in the store, there's this magical cheese bin that I just learned about that Whole Foods has. It's the $5 cheese bin. But you said that you guys have expanded on that. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Due to popular demand, we have 3 little sections in the cheese case right there in the department that house all the little 5 and under bits from everything that we're cutting, because a lot of times you'll end up with some smaller cuts, and then, you know, instead of putting them out, we'll throw them in there, and it's a good way to try something you haven't had before, or something that's on sale, or, you know, even something you just want to snack on.
And I mistakenly thought that it was just straight up $5, but it's $5 and under, depending on the size of it. But it's perfect. Like you said, if you're wanting to try something, you're not wanting to spend $80 on a half pound of cheese, you can get like this really, I don't know. I just came up with a random number off the top of my head. Cheese can get expensive, but you know, you get a little version of it. And then also perfect for cheese plates at home, like if you're having a little get together to kind of pair some stuff that way.
It's super easy. You know, you grab 3 cheeses, maybe some olives, a little sliced meat, some honey, and some bread, and you're kind of set for
done.
the night.
Yeah, that's dinner for me.
But that being said, I mean, the $5 bin is just, you know, what we're cutting and putting in there. We also will cut down any cheese to order as well. So, you know, so if, you know, a lot of times we'll put out wheels that maybe like are a little pricey or something like that, and we would rather cut into them to provide the customer like a fresh piece. You know, all you have to do is ask if there's a piece out there that's too big or you only want half of it. We do that all the time too. So you're definitely not constrained to the 5 and under bin. Like anything in the coffin can be cut to spec.
Okay, well, that's good to know too. Quick question that just came up from bringing about that. If you're doing a cheese plate, you're putting the cheese on there. Do you recommend the cheese getting to room temperature, or cold to plate? Like how would you temperature wise for the cheese?
I mean, it's and once again, it
depends on the cheese, obviously, too.
Really, no. It mirrors, you know, like red wine or beers. It's like, you know, all cheese is good at room temp.
Okay.
That really brings the flavor out. You're able to taste everything. And it's just really easy too. I mean, like 15, 20 minutes of just being out on the counter, it's going to be room temp and ready to serve.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And can we talk a little bit about the crystallization that you'll taste in some cheeses? I happen to love it, and what that means.
Yeah. In a lot of aged cheeses, you'll find these little crystallizations either on the outside of the cheese or within the body of the cheese. Aged Goudas, for instance, will have that a lot. And as the cheese ages and expels the moisture, all of the solids will basically start concentrating, and then you'll get these little crystallizations of an amino acid called tyrosine.
Okay.
So that's the actual crystal, is a crystallized amino acid, which is the tyrosine, of course, coming from the base Latin tyros, meaning cheese.
We just got some learning on there on the Lafayette Food Junkie Show tonight.
Yeah, I mean, those little crystals are cool. I mean, tyrosine is actually a precursor to dopamine being released in your brain.
Is that why people love cheese so much?
Yeah, there's been a lot of articles written about like tyrosine and aged cheese intake and kind of like...
the same effects as drugs, yeah.
Or like tryptophan and all those things too that kind of like make you happy after you eat them.
Well, cheese does make me incredibly happy, as does a glass of wine with cheese.
And there's a scientific reason for that.
Yeah, there you go. We just learned that tonight. I feel like I've asked you this before, but we're going to ask it again. Eating the rinds of cheese. Obviously, you wouldn't want to eat something with a wax rind on it, or if it's incredibly moldy.
Right.
But the ones that the kind of... all I can say is like the rind has kind of melded in with the cheese and become one with the cheese. Mm-hmm. Are those safe to eat?
Well, it depends. I mean, anything that has like the white bloomy rind, like a brie, a camembert, anything like that, is totally fine to eat. And it's actually a matter of preference. It's not really, you can eat it if you like it. You can if you don't like it, don't eat it. Other than that, when you're thinking about the way that these cheeses age, the rind is actually the cheese itself that has just kind of like morphed into that hard rind over time from exposure to oxygen and then like all the bacterial cultures that they put on it and then like the mold and getting brushed with salt water and brine and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I would say like overwhelmingly don't eat the rind on cheese unless it's like, like a brie, a camembert, something like white and puffy. Just because it's going to taste kind of bitter and just have a bevy of weird bacteria and mold on it.
Okay, so you're telling me that I'm probably going to die from eating the rind of Parmesan cheese?
No, actually, Parmesan is one of those cheeses that you
is
can
okay.
eat. Yeah,
okay, so I'm all right.
Yeah, I had a customer a long time ago who would come in and he would buy them and eat them like chips, he would say.
Okay, so I'm not crazy because I feel weird with the amount that I like the rinds of the Parmesan.
Because the rind is actual cheese that's just hardened over like the past couple years.
Okay.
It's been aging. They are more for cooking. If you cook them down.
I saw soup. Like you make soup stock with it.
I'll do them in marinara or spaghetti sauces or whatnot. And they start to melt after you kind of cook them for a while, and they get really cheesy, like little dumplings.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll have to go buy some from you and maybe eat some like chips, but then also try it in the soup like that.
Yeah. Any type of like, soup, stock, broth, anything like that. You can throw them in there and you get that kind of cheesy flavor.
All right, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we have more with Alan. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on Newstalk 96.5 KPEL.
She puts the wow, yum into words. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie herself on Newstalk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on Newstalk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Decou, and we've been talking with Alan Lee, who is a cheese expert at Whole Foods. So you guys, Whole Foods is doing something called the 12 Days of Cheese.
12 Days of Cheese.
Hello. Great. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So starting on December 13th, we're going to be offering one cheese every day till the 25th, and that cheese is going to be half off.
Okay.
It's going to change every day, and a lot of these we have pretty limited supplies on, so it's, of course, first come, first serve while supplies last, but there are some really good things on there. I definitely encourage people to start stopping by, see what's on sale that day. If you have like a favorite that's coming up, check that out too. Half off's a really good price, and we have like some really good stuff in right now.
And you guys were gracious enough and brought me a bag of cheese and this really cool wine. I'm going to grab it real quick. It's Francis Ford Coppola's Director's Cut wine. He not only directs movies, but he makes some pretty good wine too. And you said this was a good wine. I haven't had this one before.
Yeah, that's I think that's my favorite from the top 10 wine program this year. It's a really nice blend, Cab Merlot, Syrah. You get kind of the best of everything, but it's really rich. It's nice and dry. It's kind of jammy. It's super easy to drink. I brought that to a party last night, and it was gone within minutes, yeah.
For a while, I was doing something on Instagram called reviewing $5 wines so you don't have to. And one of my absolute favorite wines that is $5 is from you guys, and I can never remember the name of it so don't ask me, but I know it has a tree on the cover, and maybe during another break I can find it or not. But you guys have great and expensive wines, and I don't think people realize that. And I love that about y'all.
Well, we do have, two master somms that actually are global wine buyers that do a good job with kind of getting those deals for us as well. But in store, George does, a really great job of bringing in things that he likes as well, and he has a great palate for it. Myself, I like wine, but
not your area of expertise.
My expertise actually kind of is in the 10 and under stuff. So
like
if you see me and you're like, I want like a $7 bottle of wine, like I've got you.
Yeah. Hey, you can find some really great bottles out there, and stuff that's kind of over that is really out of my price range. Probably my favorite wine, and I'd actually talked to George about getting it in the store for me a while back, and y'all may have it now. I know that at the time, no one had it in town. I had it at a restaurant in town. It was called Sexual Chocolate, and I just love the name. And it's not chocolate at all, and everyone always thinks that from hearing it. But it's about a little under $30, and that's like a splurge for me. So, pretty much if you're an everyday drinker, I think $10 bottles of wine is a good price range, and $5 is even better.
Well, if you come in there with $30, we're going to treat you like a king.
Yeah, you can get all the wine.
$30, that's a good bottle. Like, you can definitely find something for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so is there a shelf life for cheese?
Indeed.
Okay, let's talk about that.
General rule is the softer it is, the less it's going to stay good, for like, as soon as you cut into something and the oxygen comes into contact with the actual, like what I call like the meat of the cheese, that's when the degradation starts. So like Bries, you have about 2 weeks after you cut that piece. Harder cheeses can go up to like 2, 3, 4 weeks is kind of pushing it. So generally about 3 weeks for like your really, really aged stuff. That being said, like we mark every piece of cheese that we cut with a sell-by date, which is not the use-by date. We actually short date everything so that the time you get it home, it's still good for another week or two.
Okay.
And even after that 3 weeks, the hard stuff, it gets a little mold on it. Just scrape it off, maybe cut a quarter inch under it. It's still fine. Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. So my theory of just cutting the mold off is
totally fine.
Okay, and especially with the harder cheeses.
Yeah, if you buy like a smaller format cheese and you don't cut into it, like that St. Aubrey that you have there, it's still just in a constant cycle of maturation. So it'll go from soft, then start like hardening up again. And if you're, keeping an eye on it, just like turning it, letting air flow over it, you're just going to end up with like a nice little solid grating cheese at some point. So like once that oxygen hits that cheese, the cheese is just trying to redevelop a rind. And if it gets a little green or blue mold on it, that's fine. Red or black, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen red or black mold on a cheese.
And you shouldn't.
Yeah,
but if you do,
warning.
Like, those are pretty
those are bad.
Sure signs of like a defect, and you should toss it out and let us know about it.
So some cheeses are pretty stinky, and sometimes I'll, with dairies, smelling it, determining if it's bad or not. Can you kind of do that with cheese too, or does it not work since some of them are kind of on the stinky variety?
Yeah, and the really stinky ones, you should be able to smell it and know whether it's like, the good stink or like the bad stink. And then a lot of times you want to let it air out too, because if it comes in, it's usually wrapped in paper or something, so everything's kind of like trapped in there. You want to give it a chance to kind of air out. But there's definitely a few smells that as soon as you kind of detect them, you know that there's something going on.
I have a friend that went on a trip to San Francisco, and she went to a creamery there, and she smuggled cheese back in her suitcase, and it was a really funky, stinky kind, and her suitcase smelled wonderful. when she got back. Like somebody had died in there, but in a good way.
Keep it sealed and keep it cold if you're traveling with it.
So when pairing wines with cheeses, do you recommend, if it's a French wine, doing it with a French cheese, Spanish with Spanish? How do you recommend pairing? Do you recommend that way of pairing?
The easiest rule of pairing is if it grows together, it goes together. So like you said, if it's French cheese, it's French wine.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get more specific than that, you can actually kind of like break it down to like regions or towns. The closer something has been produced or grown together, it's going to go together. But that being said, if there's a particular cheese that like you really just love or a particular wine, it's going to taste good with anything. So, people get hung up on pairings a lot, maybe a little overly so, and get stressed out about it. There are definitely things that pair very nicely with each other, but, don't stress out about it too much. Or if you do, that's why I'm here.
Referencing the butter podcast that I was listening to earlier, they were talking about camel butter, and it brings up the question, have you ever tasted a cheese that was made with camel's milk before?
No.
And what would that taste like?
Delicious.
They were saying it was really fatty.
Yeah.
Like it made like for a really fatty butter.
I've never had camel cheese, and there's moose cheese out there too.
What?
Which is the most expensive cheese. I think it's like $400 a pound or something.
Okay,
like
and
that.
I feel like
expensive.
they also were talking about moose butter too. Okay, so
there's not a lot of places that do it, and they don't produce like a ton of milk because it takes like 10 pounds of milk to produce like a pound of cheese.
Right.
So you need a lot of milk.
I'm just imagining people in the forest trying to milk a moose right now.
Yeah.
And it just made me laugh pretty hard. Do you have a preference do you like cow milk, sheep's milk, goat's milk, cheese? Like what's more of your preference?
For me, sheep milk is king.
Yeah.
And going back to that, like, as far as like the solids content in the milk, like sheep and buffalo pretty much like have the highest amounts of like fat and protein in the milk too. So they kind of have the most flavor as well. So it's really hard to make because a sheep makes about a pint of milk a day when it's lactating.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still kind of on that 8 to 10 pounds of milk for like 1 pound of cheese deal. So it takes a long time. It's very, very labor intensive. There's a lot of like manual activity that goes into it. And then you're constantly, all the sheep, you have to tend to those guys. So it's really hard. It's a labor of love, but the cheese is delicious.
Have you made it out to Wanda's goat farm in St. Martinville and had her cheese yet? Have you made it out there?
Is that Bella Course?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Okay. What did you think?
I like it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Like she does really, I love her cheese. I got a little excited when I went there. We made a little too much noise in the little shopping area, which is amazing to me that it's on the honor system. And you just, if no one's in there, you just write down what you bought and you leave your money in a box.
Yeah, the 2 times I've been there, I've just wrote out my receipt and put my money in the box.
Her goat cheese is so good. It's probably some of my favorite goat cheese that's out there. Have you gotten to travel around a lot to different creameries and farms to see, the cheese being made and the whole process?
Yeah, kind of throughout my professional career, just moving around. I've been in like Nashville and Atlanta, some places in Alabama, and New Orleans, Wisconsin, California. So you take a lot of kind of like vendor guided trips because they want to show you like what they do. And
right.
It helps you. It's informational, and it helps you sell it and taste it and whatnot. So a lot of dairy trips that way. And of course, going through like my professional certification, we had to do a lot of field work in Wisconsin as well. So I got a lot of dairy experience doing that. But that being said, I really like what I do. So every time we're on vacation, I'm always trying to go to like a brewery or like a cheese making
There is
facility.
nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of the same way. If I travel, one of the number one things that I look for is what restaurants are in that city. And, that's the restaurants that I would want to go check out. So that makes total sense to me. Yeah. Do we have a lot of cheesemakers in Louisiana?
No. John Folse, I think, used to have
really
a big facility. That was, I think they stopped making cheese maybe 5 or 6 years ago or so. And some of that stuff was pretty good. And then, you have Bella Course out of St. Martinville. And I think there's a couple small guys, but nothing on a large scale production. Most of the dairy cows down here are more geared towards just like straight milk production.
Yeah.
Because it's hard with the weather and everything.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
really
ask,
hot.
if the weather had an aspect into why we don't have a lot of aged cheeses here.
Yeah, I mean, just in the aging facilities as well. I mean, you're going to take that into account.
The humidity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's never, I mean, most places that do have like a lot of like cheese producers, it's kind of like in their culture. Like in Wisconsin, like they have a lot of like Swiss immigrants and German immigrants that brought those traditions over from the old country. Whereas like, you know, I don't really see the Nova Scotians or anybody like that, like making cheese back in the, in the day.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Alan.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure learning more about cheese. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next week, Sunday at 6 p.m.